Most arrogant people seem powerful only when they can pull you into their game. The moment you stay calm, their influence weakens. Most arrogant people are not strong. They are just waiting for you to react. That is what arrogance really is, performance, not authority. It depends on your emotion to survive. Today I'm giving you 5 phrases that make arrogance lose its power without turning you into a louder version of them. These are not comeback lines. They are emotional shields, and most people never realize how much dignity they lose by trying to out-ego an egotist. If you learn to stay composed, the other person's performance starts to collapse on its own. You do not have to win the room. You only have to stop feeding the ego in it. And the first phrase does exactly that. The first phrase is, "That may be true." It is one of the cleanest ways to remove fuel from arrogance. Reaction versus restraint. Ego versus calm. This phrase does not agree, but it does not argue either. It refuses to reward the other person with emotional resistance. And that changes the entire dynamic. Most arrogant people expect challenge, correction, or defensiveness, so calm acknowledgement disrupts their rhythm. Stoicism teaches that not every claim deserves your energy. Sometimes the strongest move is to let someone sit inside their own performance without joining them. That is where real composure begins. The hidden power of this phrase is that it protects your peace while exposing theirs. Most people never realize how much control they lose by trying to prove something to someone who only wants dominance. And the next phrase is, "For when arrogance hides behind vague criticism or subtle contempt." The second phrase is, "What exactly do you mean?" It is a precision tool. Clarity versus confusion. Truth versus pretension. Arrogant people often speak in a way that sounds superior, but stays vague enough to avoid accountability. This phrase forces them to define themselves clearly, and that weakens the power of hidden disrespect. Most people never realize how quickly arrogance collapses when it is asked to be specific. Stoicism values truth over performance, and this is what that sounds like in conversation. The phrase is powerful because it does not attack. It simply requests precision. If the person meant something honest, they can say it. If they meant to dominate, they now have to expose it. That is why this works so well. It makes the conversation cleaner and the arrogance harder to hide. And the next phrase is useful when arrogance turns into a debate you do not want to feed. The third phrase is, "I see it differently." It is the calmest way to disagree with an arrogant person. Self-respect versus approval. Peace versus defensiveness. This phrase is powerful because it does not submit and it does not escalate. It simply shows that your mind is your own. Arrogant people often expect either silence or emotional resistance, but this phrase gives them neither. Stoicism teaches inner independence. You do not need to surrender your perspective to preserve your dignity. Most people either over-explain or stay quiet out of fear, but this phrase demonstrates calm authority. You are not trying to dominate the exchange. You are not trying to impress the room. You are simply standing in your own judgment without apology. The hidden cost of trying to win against arrogance is that you enter their arena. This phrase keeps you out of it. And the next phrase is for when superiority is really just insecurity in disguise. The fourth phrase is, "You don't need to prove that to me." It is a subtle but powerful disarmament of ego. Validation versus freedom. Insecurity versus composure. Arrogant people often perform confidence because they need to be seen as above others. This phrase quietly removes the stage. It tells them they do not need to impress you, compete with you, or perform superiority for your approval. Most people never realize how disarming it is to stop rewarding someone's need to look important. Stoicism teaches that true strength does not advertise itself. A calm person sees through the performance without needing to expose it loudly. That is what makes this phrase so effective. It lowers the emotional temperature without lowering your standards. The hidden cost of feeding someone's ego is that you end up living under its pressure. And the final phrase becomes the strongest boundary when arrogance turns into disrespect. The fifth phrase is, "We can continue when this is respectful." It is the highest form of calm authority. Dignity versus escalation. Restraint versus emotional collapse. This phrase does not beg, argue, or threaten. It simply sets the condition for continued conversation. And that is why it works so well against arrogant people. It makes respect non-negotiable without turning you into the aggressor. Most people never realize how powerful it is to end a disrespectful moment without raising your voice. Stoicism teaches that control begins with self-command, not with trying to control someone else's ego. That is the real difference. You are not trying to win their approval. You are protecting your standard. The hidden cost of staying in disrespectful exchanges is that your standards slowly disappear. This phrase stops that drift. And that is why these phrases are not just responses. They are signs of a person who no longer offers their peace to arrogance. The goal is not to defeat arrogant people. It is to become too grounded to be moved by them. A person who stays calm, precise, and self-respecting becomes rare, and rarity creates power. These phrases work because they come from inner discipline, not emotional impulse. They are not tricks to win arguments. They are proof that you no longer need to enter every ego battle. A wise person does not shrink, perform, or prove. They remain clear. They know that arrogance feeds on reaction, and they refuse to offer it. Remember this: the moment you stop feeding arrogance, it starts revealing itself. If this spoke to you, comment which phrase you need most, subscribe for more Stoic lessons, and keep building the kind of presence that makes arrogance lose its grip.